Let me take you today into one of the creepiest, most mysterious stories in the history of Texas. And trust me, if you love chilling tales, you're gonna love this one. Up in North Texas, right in Denton County, there's a small town called Copper Canyon. It's connected to the city of Denton by a small wooden bridge, barely 105 feet long. At first glance, it looks like nothing special, just an old, weathered bridge worn down by time. But behind that plain, innocent look hides a collection of terrifying stories and endless legends. They say the bridge, quiet as it seems, is surrounded by a dark, disturbing history. Blood-chilling screams echo in the night, footsteps crossing the bridge when no one's there, and people who've walked across it claim they've been suddenly scratched or even shoved by something they couldn't see. These strange encounters have happened so often that the bridge is now ranked among the top 5 most haunted places in the entire United States. It's become a favorite spot for thrill seekers and those obsessed with the paranormal. But nearly everyone who's been there agrees on one thing. Whatever haunts that bridge has something to do with a strange, terrifying creature they call the Goatman. Now listen closely, for the details make the story. Our story begins in 1846. Back then, Denton County had just been founded, and the officials were hunting for the perfect spot to build their brand new county seat. At first, they settled on a tiny little town called Bankenville, but it didn't last long, less than 2 years in fact, before they had to pack up and move, all because the place barely had any water. The Texas legislature picked a new location, this time on a series of high hills, just about half a mile from the first site. They called it Alton. But the water problem? Still there. In fact, the new city was almost completely empty. Only one person actually lived there. With things falling apart fast, the government decided, yet again, to move the county seat. In 1850, they picked a new spot south of Denton and named it Alton, too. This time, things looked better. They built a post office, 2 hotels, a school, a church, and slowly, people began to settle in. Life was finally taking root. But after just 6 short years, trouble came knocking again. The drinking water was contaminated. Sickness began spreading through the town. The residents had had enough. They signed a petition to move the county seat one more time, this time north. And one by one, families started leaving, until Alton became a ghost town. Fast forward almost 30 years, to 1884. A company called King Iron decided to build a wooden and steel bridge, connecting the city of Denton to a small town called Copper Canyon. They named it Alton Bridge, after the old county seat. Back then, it was the only link between Copper Canyon and a popular cattle trail deep in the Denton woods. For a while, the bridge was a lifeline. Horses and wagons crossed it daily, hauling goods and supplies. But over time, a newer, wider bridge was built nearby, one that allowed 2-way traffic. People abandoned the old Alton Bridge until it and the land around it were left completely deserted. And that's when the strange reports began. Voices, unexplained, coming from the heart of the woods. Unnatural ripples in the river below. Massive shadows moving between the trees, then vanishing without a trace. These weren't just a few isolated stories. Thousands claimed to have experienced them, but the most terrifying accounts were about the same thing. A creature, waiting at the far end of the bridge, a body like a man, covered head to toe in thick black hair, the head of a goat, with enormous horns, and a roar that could freeze you in place. They say, the moment you set foot on the bridge, it charges straight at you, moving so fast you can barely breathe. But then, just before it reaches you, it disappears. And so, the locals gave it a name. They started calling it the Goatman's Bridge, or, as it's known in Western folklore, the Faun, is one of the most chilling mysteries that's baffled both scientists and lovers of the unknown. The Western myth speaks of a massive creature, standing nearly 8 feet tall, half man, half goat, covered head to toe in thick, dark fur. Sometimes it walks on 2 legs, sometimes on all 4s, and everywhere it goes, it leaves behind a stench so foul it can make you sick to your stomach. In folklore, the faun is seen as a savage predator, a man-eater, living only in isolated, forgotten places, roads long abandoned, swallowed by darkness. And that is where the strange link between this creature and Alton Bridge begins. Many locals believed the strange figure haunting the bridge was none other than the faun itself. But the truth, the one that makes your skin crawl, is that the legend of Alton Bridge tells a completely different story. A tragic and horrifying story that has nothing to do with the faun. In the late 1800s, there lived an African-American goat farmer named Oscar Washburn. He and his family had a small home, just north of the bridge. In a short time, Oscar became incredibly successful. So successful, he was known as the best goat trader in the entire region. Proud of his success, one day he put up a sign at the entrance to the bridge. It read, "This way to the Goatman." It was a playful double meaning, part advertisement for his business, part declaration of pride. But that sign would fall into the wrong hands. It caught the attention of a violent white supremacist group, the Ku Klux Klan. They despised anyone who wasn't of European descent, and they thrived on terror. When they saw that sign and realized Oscar was proud of his achievements, their hatred boiled over. They decided he had to die. One night in August 1938, they stormed his home, tore him away from his wife and children, and dragged him to Alton Bridge, the very place he had hung his sign of pride. They tied a rope to the bridge's railing, looped the other end around his neck, and with one violent shove, they hanged him. But seconds later, they looked down and froze. The rope was swinging empty. Oscar's body was gone. No splash in the river, no ripples in the water. Nothing. Panicked, they searched the ground below, turning over every inch of earth. But it was as if Oscar had vanished into thin air. In blind rage, the clan leader ordered his men back to Oscar's home, where his wife and children were still inside. They set the house ablaze, and it burned with everyone in it. Oscar was never seen again. Not alive, not dead. From that night on, strange sightings began to spread. People claimed to see a man-like figure, with the head of a goat, roaming the bridge. It would watch, silently, with eyes like burning fire. But here's the thing, it never harmed the innocent. If anything, it seemed to guard the bridge, or maybe it was waiting for someone. Over the years, the legend says, Oscar's spirit became the Goatman, a restless soul, hunting those who took his life. One by one, the men who took part in the lynching began to die. Each death strange, unexplained, and every one of them last seen near the bridge. And to this day, they say the Goatman only reveals his full form under 2 conditions. If you stop your car in the middle of the bridge, turn on your headlights, and honk your horn 3 times in a row. Or, if you knock 3 times on the bridge's railing, just like the clan did on the night they killed him. Everything we've talked about so far might sound like nothing more than legends to some. But here's the thing. A huge number of locals believe every word, and many swear they've experienced something strange on that abandoned bridge. Still, there's another theory. One that claims Oscar's spirit is there, but he's a good spirit. He roams the bridge, never harming the innocent. The scratches, the shoves, the blood-curdling screams. According to this version, those belong to another spirit entirely. The spirit of Steve. Steve wasn't just any man. He was the leader of the Ku Klux Klan in the area, and one of the key figures behind the horrific night Oscar was lynched. But Steve wasn't only a racist. He was a violent, deeply disturbed man, obsessed with dark magic and satanic rituals. The legend says he was married 3 times. All 3 women lived under constant abuse. When he tried to marry a 4th woman, she refused, and in his arrogance, he decided he'd force her to marry him anyway. On their wedding night, the bride drank poison, ending her life. But the autopsy revealed something horrifying. Poison wasn't the cause of death. She'd been savagely bitten by Steve in a moment of pure madness. After that, he completely lost his mind. He wandered to Alton Bridge, and there, Oscar's spirit found him and took its revenge. From that night on, they say Steve's soul was trapped on the bridge forever, slithering through its shadows, attacking anyone who dares cross. And according to the legend, if you call his name out loud while standing on the bridge, his spirit will appear instantly and hunt you without mercy. But as terrifying as the Oscar and Steve stories are, some believe the strange events here go back even further. Back to the 1860s, before the bridge was even built. The man at the center of that tale was Jack Kendall, an African-American cattle rancher, wildly successful in his trade. His success made him enemies, a group of white cowboys who one night decided to kill him. They dragged him to a tree near where the bridge now stands and lynched him so violently that his head was torn clean from his body. But Jack wasn't just a man. He was a practitioner of voodoo, and according to the legend, he didn't die. Even without his head, his body rose, searching for his killers. When he couldn't find his own head, he slaughtered a goat, tore off its head, and placed it where his own had been. From then on, people began seeing him, a man's body, with the head of a goat, stalking the area, hunting for revenge. And still, the stories don't end there. Some say the bridge is also haunted by a mysterious woman. She appears in broad daylight, wearing a long dress, standing in the middle of the bridge, calling out for her daughter. They say her child fell from the bridge into the river below, and when the mother jumped in to save her, both drowned. Now, she appears from time to time, calling, and when no one answers, she lets out a scream that shakes the air before vanishing. But here's the strangest part. If you check the official records, there's no proof of any of it. No woman who drowned with her child. No Oscar Washburn living there. No Jack Kendall. Not even Steve. These are all stories, passed down from generation to generation until people began to believe them. Over time, the bridge became a magnet for the occult, for witches, demon worshippers, and black magic rituals. It got so bad. Pet stores in Denton and Copper Canyon stopped selling cats because people were buying them for sacrifices on the bridge. Even today, visitors claim to find strange symbols carved into the wood, and the remains of cats and squirrels used in rituals. All of it, these rites, these offerings, has led many to believe the bridge is no longer just haunted by the dead. It's crawling with demons, and whatever's happening there isn't just an old story anymore. It's a curse, a living, breathing curse that still owns the Goatman's Bridge. Back in the early 2000s, an incident brought the terror of Alton Bridge back into the spotlight. Two young boys decided to play soccer on the bridge one afternoon. The weather was perfect, the place was calm, nothing to worry about. An old wooden bridge, surrounded by trees on every side. No people around, just nature and silence. But while they were caught up in their game, they didn't notice the sun starting to set and the shadows slowly creeping in. Then, out of nowhere, they heard it. The sound of hooves pounding against the old wooden boards of the bridge. The steps were getting closer and closer, but there was no one there. Nothing. Just the sound coming from nowhere. Panic kicked in. They decided to run. One of the boys took the lead, but when he looked back to check on his friend, he saw something that would haunt him for the rest of his life. His friend was suddenly lifted into the air, as if an invisible hand had grabbed him, and then hurled over the side of the bridge, straight into the river below. Frozen in shock for a split second, he then ran down the bank, dove into the water, and pulled his friend out. "Why did you jump?" he asked, out of breath. The answer? "I didn't jump. Something picked me up off the ground and threw me." But this wasn't the only recent event on Alton Bridge. Dozens of people have reported chilling encounters, screams coming from nowhere, glowing eyes peering at them from between the trees. That strange, heavy feeling that someone is walking right behind you. Some even said they could feel the warmth of a body on their back. But when they turned around, nothing. These claims caught the attention of two famous paranormal investigators in 2018. Armed with their gear, they went to Alton Bridge at midnight and filmed the whole thing. The result? Terrifying. The video went viral, over 20 million views, turning the bridge into an icon of horror, a magnet for thrill seekers and mystery lovers. The legend didn't just inspire content creators. It made its way into literature, too. One of the most dedicated researchers, author Becky Vickers, spent 25 years studying the bridge and its secrets. Her book, Secrets of Goatman's Bridge, documents years of exploration. Becky would venture deep into the woods herself, chasing any lead, but her adventures were anything but safe. She's spoken in interviews about sudden scratches appearing on her back and on her team, with no idea where they came from. Every trip, she seemed to find animal bones, cats, squirrels, sometimes arranged in a 5-pointed star, a well-known symbol in dark rituals. The most disturbing find? A stone altar built beneath 3 intertwined trees. Locals claim it was used to summon spirits, even demons. Becky also reported seeing shadowy figures, dressed in long black robes with hoods pulled low, holding strange books. They looked like magicians from the 1800s, but they would vanish in the blink of an eye, just as suddenly as they appeared. And yet, after all these years, and all the bizarre evidence she's gathered, the truth is still a mystery. Is the Goatman's Bridge haunted by restless spirits looking for revenge? Or is there something darker, something more ancient, controlling this place? Especially when some claim that the creature seen here bears an eerie resemblance to Baphomet, the goat-headed demon once worshipped by the Knights Templar. And so, we reach the end of the story. Goatman's Bridge remains one of the scariest places in America. And no matter how many theories we come up with, the truth stays hidden. Or maybe it's buried deep in the woods, just waiting for someone brave enough to find it. If you enjoyed this tale, share it with a friend who loves a good mystery. And don't miss the stories of the vanishing town of Ashley and the disappearance of the Zanetti train. Both chilling, both unforgettable, and both with shocking evidence they might just be true. Until next time, we'll meet again for a story even darker, even stranger than this one. Goodbye.